Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming OCS exams happening in May 2025. My name is Nick and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for OCS at TCS. So let's look at the session plan. I don't want to take a lot of time because I know for a fact that you are involved with last minute preparations. So I'm going to keep it short. First things first, I'm going to share some tips which will enable you to maintain positivity before walking into the exam, which is crucial. And these tips will be followed by a Q&A session as usual. So on the exam day, how can you maintain confidence? So before the exam, in these final days, it's essential that you take steps to rest your mind and body. I've highlighted this fact throughout the webinar and workshop series, especially in the first webinar in which we discussed a study plan. And as per TCS's study plan, closer to the exam, you are supposed to stop all your work. So if you can, it's essential that you at least stop all work a day prior to the exam, which will give you enough time to rest both physically and mentally. Because at the exam, you are supposed to provide answers in a practical manner, and at the same time, you are supposed to operate in a time pressured environment, which will expose you to fatigue. Fatigue leads to stressful situations. So, as I mentioned in the and the fourth webinars, the objective of testing your knowledge via a case study is to check whether you have learned your theories and whether you know to apply these theories considering the information presented to you. And at the same time, the examiner is also testing whether you are capable of managing your stress levels, because if not, you are not ready to play the role of a finance officer of a real life company. So that's why it's essential that you manage your stress levels during your exam, which is not going to be easy. If you had attempted mock exams under exam conditions, you know what I'm talking about. Because in the first two sections, you will be quite all right. But once fatigue sets in the last two sections, especially in the final section, although you are dedicated 45 minutes, there's a tendency for students to give up and rush the process, or partially complete section number 4. So these type of issues, you'd experience these type of issues due to fatigue setting in, and when fatigue sets in, you'd be exposed to extreme levels of stress. So in order to manage your mindset, manage your positivity, manage your confidence levels at your exam, which will ensure that you manage your stress levels and fatigue levels, it's essential that you take a break at least a day prior to your exam. So if your exam is happening on Wednesday, you have to stop all your work by Monday, which is tomorrow, so that you can rest throughout Tuesday, which will ensure that you are calm and composed both mentally and physically. Because as I mentioned in the webinar series, the examiner is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment. So it's as if you are walking to office on a Monday when attempting your exam. So if you were up till late or during the weekend, if you didn't get proper sleep, if you didn't eat properly, if you are exposed to extreme levels of stress during the weekend, you can't function properly on a Monday. So that's exactly why I'm asking you to stop all work a day before your exam. So as I mentioned earlier, if you are attempting your exam on Wednesday, at least by Monday, you have to complete all your work. If you do so, you are taking steps to relax, and this will ensure that you are relaxed during the exam, rather than being unnecessarily stressed both mentally and physically. And before the exam, don't refer to any study material, mocks, or answer plans as per the study plans which we shared with you. I just ask you to reread the annotated pre-scene one last time leading up to the exam. And at the same time, I said that you are supposed to go through the answer plans of the 6 mock exams, thereby revising your theoretical knowledge and application skills. Other than that, you are not supposed to refer to anything else, any study material, because I've personally witnessed students, especially before the exam, on the day of the exam itself, students tend to go through mock exams, go through the pre-scene document, and do everything under the sun, which is totally unnecessary. Because at the exam, the examiner is going to introduce you to novel information which you cannot 100% predict. You can predict the type of syllabus areas which can be tested. However, you can't, predict at a higher level of accuracy about the type of scenarios which are going to be thrown at you. So there's absolutely no point of trying to go through mock exams, trying to go through answers, because if you do so, especially on the day of the exam, if you do so, you will see all questions in a similar angle, which should not be the case. Because when developing your answers, you should make sure to consider the information at hand and develop an answer which is 100% aligned with the requirement, rather than trying to remember the type of mock exams which you attempted, and therefore the type of answers you saw when going through the answer plans or the suggested answers. So that should not be your process. The preparations are there to get your grasps with how each syllabus area is tested at the exam, how to improve your answering technique, how to improve your time management and stress management techniques, and at the exam you are supposed to implement them rather than trying to remember what you saw in the mock exams and the suggested answers. So it's essential that you start relaxing right now. And in these final days, it's good to think that you are the finance officer at Halfpenny, so that you change your mindset to a real life corporate setting, which is essential when it comes to developing answers, developing responses. And at the same time, it's quite normal for you to feel anxiety, fatigue, as well as some type of negativity in these final days. Even when you have done your homework, me as a student, I felt negative close to the exam. I actually, speaking on the day of the exam, I used to throw up because however much thorough I was with my preparations, however much thorough I was with my studies, or answering technique and whatnot, I still struggled on the day of the exam. Why is this the case? Because it's quite normal for you to feel negative or feel some type of panic setting in, because this is a tough examination. So whenever you are facing something tough, you will feel butterflies in your stomach, you will feel nauseous, you will feel negative. So it's quite all right whenever you feel negative. Even if you are fully prepared, even if you had stuck to our study plan, you will still be exposed to some type of anxiety, some type of negativity, because you don't know how you are going to fare at or during the exam. So whenever you feel negative, take steps to get out of such a negative situation. And one of the best ways to get out of a negative situation is to remind yourself at all times that you have done your homework. So if you had stuck to our study plan, you have taken all the steps necessary to pass this examination, you have attempted the 6 mocks, you have gone through the answer plans, and you have redeveloped answer plans. That's everything which will ensure that you will pass for sure in this examination. If you utilize resources provided by some other study provider, you might have gone through all the mock exams, you might have gone through the suggested answers, and tried to focus your attention towards improving your application skills. So if you have done something, when it comes to preparations, always remind yourself about what you have achieved when conducting preparations. This will ensure that you eradicate or manage your stress levels when leading up to the examination. And at the same time, constantly keep reminding yourself, whenever you feel negative, constantly keep reminding yourself that you just need 80 marks to pass. So out of 150 marks, you just need 80 to pass. As a percentage, it's 54%. So even if you go wrong in half of your answers, you still can pass this examination. So this is a theory heavy exam. And for some, this could be the toughest case study out there. However, if you had stuck to a process, you need not worry. And at the same time, since you need to achieve just 80 marks, definitely you can pass this exam. So, whenever you feel negative, always remind yourself that you have done your work. And at the same time, the fact that you just need 80 to pass this examination. So there's absolutely no point of scoring 90 marks, 100 marks, 110 marks, and whatnot. Both type of students should end up achieving 80. and another student who would end up achieving 140 plus will be at the same level. So you just need 80 to pass this exam, and always make up your mind about the fact that you have the capabilities. So always tell yourself that you have the capabilities to achieve a 50% success rate at your exam. If you do so, these confidence levels in your skill set, this positivity will make sure that you manage your stress levels successfully during the exam. So in order to manage your stress levels at the exam, it's essential that you manage your stress levels before the exam. So whenever you feel stressed, remind yourself that you have done your homework and you just need 80 marks to pass. And it's essential that you are open-minded in these final days. Why am I saying this? Given the fact that at the exam you are supposed to develop answers considering the information which is shared with you. So in order to make sure that you develop the best type of answers which are aligned with each requirement, which are aligned with each scenario, it's essential that you achieve a high level of open-mindedness. So that's why I want you to stop all work at least a day prior to your exam, so that you have enough time to relax, and this relaxation will ensure that you walk into the exam with an open mind, without undue influences, without trying to focus the type of questions which are going to be thrown at you. You will walk into the exam with an open mindset, which is crucial, because if you are open minded at the exam, then you will develop answers considering the information presented to you. And that's what your finance manager expects from you when operating as the finance officer at Halfpenny. So also I mentioned the fact that during the webinars I mentioned this fact as well. In a real life corporate environment, even if you are the CEO of the company, you can't predict what the future is going to look like. So it's essential that you achieve a high level of open mindedness and try not to predict the type of questions or scenarios which are going to be thrown at you at the exam. Because in a real life corporate setting, you can't forecast and try to figure out what is going to happen in the future with 100% accuracy. You can have some type of an understanding about the future of the company, but you can't do this with a 100% accuracy. So especially at this rate, at this grade, when you are the finance officer of your chosen company, there's absolutely no point of trying to predict what is going to happen. And so that's what you're supposed to do before the exam, with the intention of managing negative situations, managing your confidence levels. And during the exam, in order to make sure that you are successful, you have to stick to the exam technique routine, because as I mentioned in the fourth webinar, when I was teaching you about stress management techniques, I mentioned the fact that it makes absolutely no sense when you try to multitask, especially when you are operating in a time pressured environment. There's no point of trying to multitask whenever you are exposed to extreme levels of stress. So rather than trying to multitask, it's essential that you focus on one single task at one given time, which will ensure that you manage your stress levels in an appropriate manner, rather than being exposed to a lot of complexities during your examination. So with that in mind, you are supposed to dedicate 5 minutes of your time to read. Then the remaining 15 to 20 minutes should be dedicated towards developing the answer plan, thereby planning. And the remaining time, which could be 20 to 25 minutes, should be dedicated towards typing the answer. So you are not trying to multitask, you are not trying to read, plan, and type at the same time. Instead, if you stick to our answering technique and if you implement this answering technique, you are just taking 5 minutes to read, then you are dedicating time towards planning. Once you're done with planning, since you know what to type, the remaining time should be dedicated towards typing, thereby expanding your answer plans. And if you stick to this process, it is as if towards the last 20 to 25 minutes you are taking a break. You are ensuring that your prefrontal cortex relaxes, because as I mentioned in the fourth webinar, uh, whenever you are supposed to be involved with rational decision making, it's essential that you make sure that your prefrontal cortex is in play, because whenever human beings utilize their prefrontal cortex, they will come up with the best type of decisions, or the most rational type of decisions. So at the exam, it's essential that you come up with rational decisions, rational evaluations, and rational recommendations. So that's why it's essential that you take steps to make sure that you are capable of utilizing or thinking through your prefrontal cortex throughout the examination. But the problem is you can't keep utilizing your prefrontal cortex at a stretch, especially beyond 45 minutes, a time frame of 45 minutes, because our brains are supposed to function in a way in which we can focus on something for something like 45 minutes to 60 minutes. But beyond that point, our brain will ask us to take a break. But at the exam, you can't do so. So, because of that, it's essential that you do something which is smart enough to ensure that you rest your prefrontal cortex. So, with the intention of resting your prefrontal cortex, simply stick to our answering technique, because if you do so, when it comes to typing, you are not supposed to think too much, because you have already planned out your answer when you were developing your answer plan. So you are supposed to dedicate 5 minutes of your time to read. Then you are supposed to dedicate 15 to 20 minutes of your time to develop the answer plans concerning all subtasks. Once you have planned out the answer, you already know what you should include within the answer. And when it comes to expanding your answer plans in paragraph form, thereby typing your answer, there's no thinking involved. Instead, since you know what you should include in the answer, it's simply a matter of expanding the logic which you mentioned within your answer plan. So when it comes to the last 15 to 20 minutes, which is dedicated towards typing, you can relax. It's as if you are taking steps to relax your prefrontal cortex, which will ensure that you effectively manage your stress levels by taking steps to rest your prefrontal cortex towards the last 20 minutes of each section, and at the same time taking steps to make sure that you are not trying to multitask under a time pressured environment. So even after doing this, if you are still exposed to a stressful situation, definitely towards sections 3 and 4, due to fatigue setting in, you will be experiencing some type of stress. So whenever you are exposed to some type of additional stress, even after sticking to our answering technique, you know what to do, because we highlighted these things in the fourth webinar. You are supposed to focus on your breathing and get out of the stressful situation. Because why should you focus on your breathing? To make sure that you switch off your amygdala. So I mentioned all these things in depth in the fourth webinar, in which I explain what the amygdala is all about, and what it exposes you to if the amygdala switches on. Whenever you are exposed to extreme levels of stress, the brain functions will shift to the amygdala. And when the amygdala is in play, you will be exposed to something called a fight or flight response. Your brain will tell you to uh, take flight from a stressful situation, but you can't do so at the exam. You can't move away from your stresses. Instead, you'd have to keep fighting. And the only way to make sure that you keep fighting when faced with stressful situations is to take steps to switch off your amygdala, so that you are not becoming if you do so, you are taking steps to make sure that you are not becoming emotional. Instead, you are taking steps to reshift your brain functions from your amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, because as I mentioned earlier, if you are thinking through your prefrontal cortex during the exam, you would come up with the most rational type of decisions, the most rational type of answers. So in order to switch off your amygdala, as I mentioned in the fourth webinar, close your eyes and breathe slowly for 2 minutes. Inhale through your nose, and when inhaling, count to 3 slowly, and exhale from your mouth. And when you are exhaling, again count to 3 slowly. Do this for about 2 minutes. When you do so, you are taking steps to make sure that you are calm and composed. You are taking steps to make sure that you switch off your amygdala and reshift your thinking to the or brain functions to the prefrontal cortex. Once you do this, you'd be able to avoid a stressful situation and keep moving forward. Also, most students who successfully manage their stress levels successfully manage their time and answering technique, take a 2-minute break between tasks or sections. So once you're done with section number 1, for instance, you will be directed to section number 2, and you will see the timer, counting down from 45 minutes. That's all right. Simply close your eyes for 1 or 2 minutes and take a break, focus on your breathing, and reset your brain before you start with each section. Although you are losing time, although when you do this you are losing something like 2 minutes, this practice is essential to make sure that you start each scenario or each section with a fresh mindset. It's essential that you start each section with with a better level of open-mindedness, and you take steps to make sure before you start each section, you take steps to ensure that you reduce your stress levels or manage your stress levels. So most students who are successful in managing their stress levels at the exam, they take a 2-minute break between sections, thereby, again, the only way to take a 2-minute break is to focus on your breathing, recalibrate your brain to make sure that you are thinking through your prefrontal cortex, and drink some water. It will help calm your nerves as well. However, you can only do this if you are um, attempting the exam at an examination center, because if you're attempting the exam at home, you can't have a water bottle with you. And even if you are attempting the exam at an examination center, some invigilators are against you taking a water bottle. So you can only do this with the intention of calming your nerves or hydrating yourself, or infusing some additional amount of oxygen to your system, which is good for brain functions again. However, you can only do these things if you're allowed to do so. And always, whenever you feel stressed, when you are focusing on your breathing, remind yourself that you have done your homework and you need just 80 marks to pass. I said that you are supposed to do, constantly keep reminding yourself about these two things before the exam. And if you're exposed to extreme levels of stress at the exam, again, remind yourself about the fact that you have done your homework and you need just 80 marks to pass. And always make sure to give your best shot, even if you're clueless about an answer. That's all right. Try to come up with a logical answer, because if something is accurate, you might think that your answers are inaccurate, but when it goes to marking, you might have written something which is aligned with the scenario at hand, which is aligned with the requirement at hand. Because when dealing with most students, what they say is, right after they walk into walk off the exam, there's a tendency for them to message me or call me. And most students are extremely stressed when they are walking out of the examination center, or walking off their exam. Why? Because this is a stressful exam. You have to sit in one place 3 hours at a stretch and be exposed to extreme levels of stress. At the same time, you have to operate in a time pressured environment, which is not easy. So even when you are developing the most accurate type of answers, you will always keep questioning yourself during the exam about the accuracy of the answers. Why is this the case? You think in these terms, you doubt yourself. Your confidence levels will deplete during the exam, given the fact that you are exposed to stressful situations, and given the fact that you are operating in a time pressured environment. So if your amygdala is in play, you'll definitely be stressed and you'd be emotional. And when you are emotional, even when you are doing the correct thing, you will start questioning yourself. That's how our brains are supposed to function. So most students, so when the results are out, when they know for a fact that when they get to know that they have scored 100 plus marks, they are amazed about the outcome, because during the exam, these same students were doubting themselves. Because as I mentioned earlier, most students get in touch with me after an examination, and when they do so, almost everyone says that they think that they'd have to repeat the OCS exam. However, later to find out, 3 weeks later, when the results are out, they figure out that they have passed with flying colors, not just by achieving 80 marks, but by achieving 100 plus marks. So you will feel doubtful at the exam. Don't give in. Don't rush the process. Don't give up halfway through the examination. However much stressed you are, try to give your best shot. Utilize the 3 hours in its entirety, rather than trying to finish the exam as soon as possible. If you do so, if you try to give the best shot, if you are able to fight stressful situations by breathing and reminding yourself that you just need 80 to pass, and reminding yourself that you have done your homework, you will pass for sure. So believe in your skill set, believe in what type of activities you have done so far with regards to preparations, believe in the study process which you have adhered to so far. And at the exam, whenever you feel negative, get out of the negative situation by focusing on your breathing and by reminding yourself that you have done your work, and you just need 80 marks to pass. And at the exam, give your best shot. And the best way to make sure that you give your best shot is to stick to our answering technique, which actually forces you not to multitask but handle each element of your answering technique um, on a process oriented manner. So I hope you'd practice these things in these final days and at your real examination to make sure that you achieve extremely good results for your upcoming OCS examination. So by sticking to these techniques, sticking to these last minute tips, our students were extremely achieved extremely positive outcomes last time. That is why we achieved a 96% pass rate for the February 2025 OCS examinations. So this student who ended up getting 98 marks when the results were out still doubted. This individual stuck to the process. Yes, attempted all the mocks, redeveloped answer plans, and referred to the answer plans which we shared with this individual. So went through the process properly. But before the exam, this individual was extremely negative and doubting his capabilities. And right after the exam also, this individual said that he's not too confident about the outcome of the exam. This individual said that he might have to repeat the exam for the fifth time, because before joining us, on three previous occasions, this individual has failed the examination. So if you had failed previously, definitely you doubt your outcome at your real examination. But don't worry, when the results were out, this individual passed with flying colors. So you can achieve a similar feat. So don't let your amygdala win. Think through your prefrontal cortex. Keep fighting. Keep moving forward. Keep motivating yourself. Keep being positive and being open-minded in the upcoming days. And if you do so, you will manage your stresses um, successfully at your real examination. Okay, so having said that, we are moving to the Q&A. I'm going to pause the recording. All right, folks, seems like there aren't any questions. So if you want to contact us in these final days, you can do it via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. You can also email us at info@study@tcs.com or WhatsApp us on this number. And I urge you to follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok, because the recorded version of this session will be uploaded to our YouTube handle. Also, via TikTok, you'd gain access to 6 TikTok videos, which is a good pre-seen mind map. So in these final days, keep watching these 6 TikTok videos to keep yourself constantly reminded of what appears within your pre-seen document. All right, so having said that, it brings us to the end of the webinar and workshop series, which we conducted across 8 weeks. I hope you gained some idea about what you need to do when it comes to preparations and how you should approach this examination and what you need to achieve during your exam. And I wish you the best of luck. I hope you'd believe in your skill set. I hope you'd be positive, and it's quite normal to feel negative in these final days and during your examination. Whenever you feel negative, fight your stresses. Get out of the negative situation by focusing on your breathing and by reminding yourself that you just need 80 marks to pass. And I hope you'd manage your stress levels at your exam in a successful manner. simply by controlling your brain and sticking to the answering technique which we have highlighted. So I wish you all the very best and expect to see you guys at the management case study level. So I wish you the best of luck. Be positive, be confident, and during the exam, manage your stress levels. So thank you very much for joining. I'll see you guys at MCS.